Christy Lee, hello.
Hey Juliet, how are you going today?
I'm well, thank you. I'm really excited about this little project that we're doing over the next few episodes. I love our conversations, but I think this one's going to be great because it's going to flow across a few episodes. Let's talk about trust.
Yes, this is a great topic because it's something you and I get asked about a lot when we're working with teams and with leaders. And it is such a fundamental way. Effectively, you can't have a team unless you've got trust. Simon Sinek says a team is not a group of people that work together, it's a group of people that trust each other. But it's such a difficult thing to kind of articulate and define and to measure in a lot of ways. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle with trust and how to actually build it in their teams.
I totally agree. Simon Sinek, Pat Lencioni, Brené Brown, they all talk about the two different types of trust. So, there's that task-based predictive trust that you'll do the job. And I know sometimes that gets talked down, but that's a really important element of trust. We have to trust that people will do what they say they'll do. But I think the more difficult one, the more difficult aspect of trust to nail down is this vulnerability-based trust, isn't it? It's all these elements that we're going to talk about that we don't normally talk about, that we're not normally explicit about, and yet they are such important aspects to trust.
Definitely. I think it's like everything when it comes to our team. We're pretty good at nailing down the performance stuff or the detail stuff or the doing stuff. And it's the same with trust. We know that people on our team that we trust to get a job done. If we need something done, we know to give it to that person. They're going to get it done. But that's, like you said, just one type of trust. And that's why we're going to talk about this topic actually over 3 episodes, because I think it's important to break it down and to look at different ways that trust can be built and trust can be broken. So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack a framework, I guess, by a gentleman named David Horsager, who talks about 8 pillars of trust. Now, there are all different ways that we can articulate and define and different frameworks for trust. But I've looked at this one before and I kind of like it because there's 8 different pillars. And when you break them down, each of them just has a really common sense kind of definition and approach that if we just took that one pillar as a focus, we could easily see what we need to do in that space. And so I think it's great for businesses and leaders that want to sort of just break it down and maybe just work on one thing at a time and not try and tackle the beast.
I totally agree. And I think it does make it easy to get your hands around it, because as you say, when we both get asked about, well, how do you do this trust? What do I have to do to build trust in a team or to keep my team together? And at the moment, certainly, I've been working with teams who are really grappling with, things like hybrid working and trying to embed something that's sustainable. And without trust, that just doesn't work.
That's a really good point. And I'm seeing that play out a lot in the work I'm doing with my clients at the moment. This whole desire to return people back to the office is causing some real breakdown of trust, because employees are now saying, hold on, you've trusted me to work from home for the last 2 years when it was important for you to keep working. Now that you've decided the goalposts are different, you no longer trust me to work from home. And I'm directly seeing this breakdown of trust. And in fact, I was talking to a business just yesterday who've asked me to talk to their people and get a bit of a feel of what's happening. And I guarantee you those conversations I'm going to have, because they want their people back in the office at least 3 days a week now. It's going to center around, why do they not trust me to work from home anymore?
And I do find it fascinating. I was speaking to a couple of managers the other day who were both saying that through COVID, they've sort of put up with people working from home. Put up with it.
I had to tolerate it.
Yes, but I still don't trust them. If I can't see them, I don't know what they're doing. And I was sort of, they're talking, I'm saying, but it's not, 1950.
Yeah. And I guess this points back to an earlier episode, and we might put the link to that in the show notes, where we spoke about measuring outputs rather than input. And spoke about that, outcomes. That's right. So we'll put a link to that in today's show notes, because that's a great reminder of what we should be measuring with our people. It's not eyeballs on them, it's what they're actually getting done.
I think that's exactly, and we've managed to do that. There's been no drop off in productivity, is what all the research is telling us over the past couple of years, that people working from home are able to do the job.
Mhm.
But if you want to create and keep a cohesive team, and particularly as people are becoming more mobile, trust is going to be this thing that holds the team together, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if your people don't trust each other and they don't trust you as their leader, and that's also important, trust isn't a one-way street here, then you're never going to get that engagement and that commitment. And in an environment where, at the moment at least, employees are in demand, they can walk from one job to another in a heartbeat. They can walk from one job to 10 jobs in a heartbeat right now.
Yes.
You want to have a team that trusts you, because the breakdown in trust will get people to look to leave for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So shall we dive into them?
Yeah, so why don't we'll mention what the 8 pillars are, but we're just going to focus on 2 pillars in today's episode. Yep. And then in the next 2 episodes, we're going to focus on 3 more pillars each. So the first 2 pillars that we're going to touch on today are clarity and compassion. Then next episode, we're going to look at character, competency, and commitment. And then finally, connection, contribution, and consistency. So today we're focusing on clarity and compassion as our first 2 pillars of trust. And I love that we're starting with clarity, to be honest. It is, I feel like sometimes I'm a bit of a broken record when I'm talking to business owners and leaders about the need for clarity. It's so important, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been talking with people lately about this, how do I keep my team engaged? And this is the first thing I say, be clear about what you want to achieve, be clear about the vision, make sure that everybody knows what that is. Because so often when I go into a team and I'll say, so what are your 3 key priorities? And everyone's saying, well, we need to do this. And, and as I say to them, you're just going to come up with your own if somebody's not setting them for you. So I totally believe clarity is important. I think also because in the absence of clarity, people create their own because they crave it.
Yes.
So if you don't give them the clarity you want them to have, they'll just come up with their own story and their own priorities. And just drive that way.
And I think it comes down to as well, and I'm seeing this a lot as, we're coming out of a very stressful couple of years for anyone in leadership or a business management type of role.
Yeah.
We've kind of lost our own sense of clarity. And if we're not clear in ourselves about what the next step is, what the big priorities are, how on earth can our team ever have any sense of clarity themselves? So I think for many of us, there's a need to take stock, maybe even take a step back, get some clarity about the direction, because then we can communicate it with our team. But I'm talking to a lot of business owners at the moment that are kind of lost a bit of clarity themselves.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think this is when I was talking to these 2 managers about being uncomfortable with people working remotely. Again, and I talked to them about this idea of clarity. But if you're really clear about what you want to achieve as a team, and you then flow that down so that everybody's really clear about how their roles feed into that, then you don't need to be watching people.
No,
this
exactly.
does build trust because people go, oh, I get it. This is my role. This is how I contribute. I'm just going to get on and do that.
Exactly. And people want clarity. They actually, they kind of don't really trust when there's no clarity. It feels like maybe something a little bit amiss is going on. So I think there's a couple of things at play there. Firstly, don't assume that your people know what is the objective. You need to articulate it and communicate it. And I think, they don't read our minds. They aren't in our heads. So making sure you're clearly communicating it. But also the quote that comes to mind from Brené Brown is clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And I think so often we get caught up in, we don't want to be bossy or we don't want to be too direct with our people. No, they want that. They actually want that clarity. And clarity doesn't mean certainty. You don't have to have all the answers.
No.
You've just got to clearly articulate where we're at, where we're going, how we're going to get there.
I totally agree. What I have seen in a couple of organizations I've been in the last, 4 or 5 years, is that sometimes there's they bring in young people, or young people are attracted to the organization because the work it's not highly skilled, all of that sort of thing. And they never set out why they're here. So these people literally just come to work, go home, come to work, go home. They don't feel any sense of connection with something bigger than themselves. And when we talk about positive psychology and we talk about what well-being and what feeds our soul, for most people, that connection with something bigger is a really important part of it. And if we want to connect people to what we do, I think clarity is so important. Being able to articulate what you do and being clear with them where they fit in that. And I do see that not happening sometimes. And I think it's really difficult because those people are not attached to your business at all. They're just, they'll just go to the next business that's going to pay them more or give them better hours or whatever. There's no connection.
Definitely. And I think actually, talking of younger generations, this is really important to them, more important to them than even our Gen Xers and Gen Y generations. This sense of purpose, this clear sense of we're contributing to something, we're part of something bigger, is really, really important to them as an underlying value. So if you haven't clearly articulated that, yes, you're answering the phones or yes, you're packaging the stock, but that contributes to this happening and that happening and this, whatever this we are contributing to the world, and every business is contributing something. So it's about, drawing them along to that story. And that's right, that creates that sense of connection that's going to keep them with your business, and not just keep them there, but keep them trying harder and committed more and doing better work.
That's it, yes, feeling that they really want to achieve, they want to strive. I think it's it's one of those underpinning things, isn't it, that really, and I think it often gets overlooked because particularly if you set up the business yourself, there's a sense of, well, we're just driving forward. And often people who are highly analytical just don't do this because they think it's so obvious.
Yes, exactly.
So, what do you want me to say? Because it should be really clear to everybody, this is what we do in our business. It's stated on the label sort of thing. But being clear with people is not just about saying read the label. It's about giving them that whole, why are we doing what we do? And what does that mean that we have to do, and how do we want to do it? So
I agree. Clarity at every step of the way, I think, is really, really important, whether it's the daily expectations, whether it's the vision, whether it's the 12-month goal. You've got to constantly be embedding that clarity.
I think so. I think it's an important one. What about compassion?
This is great. I love that we're talking about this because I think it's missing in a lot of business owners and leaders. I think not intentionally, but just in the getting caught up in, all the things we've got to do. And for some business owners, I think it feels like, do we have, it's a little bit like they feel like they're going beyond what they should have to do as a business owner. But it is important because your team will put more faith and trust in you if they feel like they're cared about.
Yeah.
Do you see people struggle with this? Do you see people struggle with this?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I mean, I work with leadership teams, and we talk about this sometimes. And honestly, I've had people say, "Oh my God, you're going to make me meet with my team more often, aren't you? You're going to make me have more conversations."
Maybe you shouldn't be in a leadership role, but anyway.
It's interesting, isn't it? Often I find people dread this aspect of things because it means they have to connect with their people. They have to actually understand what's going on for them. And it's amazing when you do, how connected people become with you as a leader, with what you're trying to do, and across the team, because there's compassion. If you're role modeling compassion, you're creating an environment within the team that says this is the way we want to be, and it's okay. It doesn't make you, soft and fluffy. It doesn't make you a bit flaky. It's actually really nice and really safe.
Yeah,
it feels good. It feels like something I want to be able to do.
Yeah, it creates that psychological safety, which is actually really, really important for people. And I think this is a hard line for a lot of people to walk, because a lot of, certainly managers and leaders that I speak to have been compassionate in the past, but have been taken advantage of, or they've taken compassion to a whole nother level and become the counsellor or psychologist and taken on the mental load and the psychological load of their employees' problems. That's not what compassion is about.
No.
And this is where they've not walked that. No. And so then they've flipped and done sort of a 180 and gone to completely zero compassion, and which comes across as zero care to your team, because they've just taken it too far. Compassion is not about you taking on the load. Compassion is about you identifying with and understanding and empathizing with your team and, supporting them in what it is that they need, but you don't have to be that support mechanism.
No, absolutely. Interestingly, about probably 5 or 6 years ago now, so well before COVID, I was talking with a woman who led a team, and I was talking with her because she had just lost all of her bonus because she wasn't connecting with her team, and they'd given her a really bad rap in the feedback sessions. And she was talking about, well, I don't understand. I'm fine with them. I'm a good leader. And then she went on to tell me about one of the women in her team who had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had asked to work from home a couple of days a week. And again came this comment of, well, if I can't see her, she's probably doing the washing or, doing home stuff and not working. Now, interestingly, I met this woman again about a year later, and she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And she was working from home, and she had this huge epiphany about, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed that I treated my people this way. And no wonder they loathed me, basically, because I didn't have any compassion. And having this really huge health scare had suddenly made her realize that everybody has stuff going on in their lives. And it doesn't matter whether it's big or small, it's their stuff.
Absolutely. It's so important.
Moment for her. Yes.
Yeah. I talk a lot with business owners about when they're not happy with one of their team or they're having challenges, about not assuming they know what's going on and having really curious conversations to get this person to talk to them, open up to them, and really get to the bottom of what's going on and really seek first to understand. And I think our default setting is often we assume we know, or we assume it doesn't matter, and it matters because you don't know what someone's experience is right now unless you're open to having those conversations. And just having someone have an opportunity to talk to you can go so far to them feeling like you have their back and you are listening.
I think so. And to them feeling heard. We know how important it is that people feel like you've heard what they have to say.
Absolutely.
Even if you can't do anything to change the situation, just that ability to be able to say, they know what's going on. They understand,
Exactly. That's so true. It's that feeling like they've been heard, and sometimes they know you can't do anything about it, or they know your hands will be tied, and the expectation is not for you to be able to change or fix things, but simply for them to be heard.
Yeah, and I agree with you that getting curious is such an important part of this.
Yeah, I think we all forget that. We're curious as kids, but as we grow up, we lose that sense of curiosity, and we miss so much when we don't lean into that.
And I think also, in the work world, often we're just pushing to get outcomes.
Yes.
And we forget that it's people who produce outcomes. And so we really need to engage with the people. There's no point just driving through.
No.
Just leaving people in your way. There's some kind of collateral damage.
No, because you'll never get the best out of people. If you want the most out of your team, they need to be engaged. And without these elements of trust, you've got zero chance of having an engaged team. So I think it's so important. So I like the first two pillars that we've unpacked today, clarity and compassion, because I think all 8 of these pillars are foundational, but I feel like without these two, some of the others we can't quite get to.
I totally agree. Yes,
I think they're a good starting point.
Fabulous.
So next episode, we're going to talk about character, competency, and commitment. So we're going to unpack 3 more next episode. So join us then. And if you're wanting to join in the conversation about trust in your team and how you can do that and some things you've seen work possibly, come over to the Facebook page and let us know.
Yep. We'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. All right. Let's talk soon.
See you soon. Bye.